What do you feel in your body when you hear the term white people?
I feel like a cringe about it. Cringe is a good word.
White, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
So I'm on the top of the pile. It's me.
Can I just propose a toast? Raise a glass if you're racist. To racist.
That was really weird.
Don't deny that you're racist. Try not to be racist, but also don't realize that you're. Until we're willing to talk about these things, healing can't really begin.
My daughter's 4 years old. She's still watching Disney movies and choosing a white princess.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
Is racism inherent to whiteness?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Did race exist as a reality before?
We made race exist.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What do you mean? What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you.
Am I Racist? Now streaming only on DailyWire Plus. Rated PG-13.
The Harris campaign's outreach to traditionally conservative voters has not gone well. White dudes for Harris never caught on. Republicans for Harris is pretty much just the Cheney family. So in the home stretch of the campaign, Democrats are turning their attention to turning out their base with a new advertisement targeting that ever-reliable demographic for Harris. We will analyze a tastefully and appropriately redacted cut of that ad, and so much more. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. I know we're all focused on the election and American politics, but just as a little preview of things to come, we look over across the Atlantic. It is now illegal to pray in your own head in the United Kingdom. It's happening there now. It will happen here soon enough if we don't stop it. So what do? We light up our delicious apple orchard candle, and then we remember what is at stake, what we can do to fight back. Got to tell you about First Liberty Institute. Go to supremecoup.com/Knowles. The radical left is plotting a Supreme Court coup, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. These progressive ideologues want to eliminate the court's conservative majority by packing it with their own handpicked justices. It's not court reform. It's a blatant power grab to get the outcomes they want. Here's the frightening part. If one party controls the House, Senate, and presidency come January, they could restructure the court overnight. It is Venezuela-style court packing, and it would spell the end of judicial independence and the rule of law as we know it. First Liberty is leading the charge to protect the Supreme Court from this radical plan. They're fighting to preserve the legitimacy of the court and the separation of powers that safeguards our freedoms. Do not let them Venezuela your United States. Go to supremecoup.com/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. That is supremecoup.com/Knowles to learn how you can help stop the left's takeover of the Supreme Court. The future of our country is in your hands. Check out supremecoup.com/Knowles, Knowles, today. This is the grossest way I've ever started one of these shows, but it seems relevant and horrifying, but nevertheless revealing of the state of the campaign. Democrats are running a 30-second ad. They call this ad Republicans Rubbing You the Wrong Way. I have dubbed this group, I think, more precisely for Harris. We've blurred this out a little because, all right, we want to be a wholesome show here. I thought this was satire when I first watched it. No, it's apparently totally earnest. I saw it. You have to too.
Sorry. You can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep.
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just gonna watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
Vote November 5th. Paid for by PAF, Progress Action Fund, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committees as an outside group. But, that's how campaigns are run, is by outside groups. The liberals accuse Trump of appealing to the passions, right? This is what, even at that rally in Madison Square Garden I was at, They say he's just riling up the base passions of his voters. And then I think, okay, I went to the rally and they were talking about the economy. They were talking about inflation. They were talking about our traditional rights in this country. They were talking about the rights of women and the rights of men. They were talking about stable families. They were giving pretty specific policy recommendations for how to improve the state of things. And then I look at the Democrats, and the Democrats are so desperate that they're now appealing to the basest passions I can imagine. Consider how degrading this is. Say, hey, do you like doing really shameful acts that you obviously are ashamed of because you're hiding it away in your bedroom and you're freaked out whenever anybody sees you? Yeah, hey, do you want to continue to commit self-abuse? Well, then you have to vote for Kamala Harris. Otherwise what? Is there any grain of truth to this? Do Republicans really seek to ban those acts? Not exactly. Maybe it would be nice if politicians could do that, but going back to St. Thomas Aquinas, not everyone is as advanced in virtue as everyone else, and so you have to have a prudent policy that tolerates certain degrees of vice in order to help to pursue the common good, in order to help people to grow in virtue without just totally cracking them, without totally demoralizing them and setting them back even further. This is pretty classical and scholastic political philosophy. So I don't see any Republicans anywhere seeking to ban those acts, though we disapprove of them, of course. They're not the sort of thing that ought to be encouraged. I don't see anyone trying to ban them. The only thing that I see that's even close to a kernel of truth in this ad is that Republicans support laws requiring age verification to look at hardcore high-speed on the internet. That's all I notice. No one's really seeking to ban pornography, certainly not to ban that act, or I'm not sure how you would do that even. But there are laws that say, hey, look, you got to show an ID to prove you're 21 to buy a cigar. You can't buy a Mayflower cigar without showing an ID to prove that you're 21 years old. You can't go buy a beer without showing an ID to show that you're 21 years old. You can't drive a car without an ID showing that you're a certain age, first for your permit, then for your license. You can't go see an R-rated movie if you're underage. You can't do this. You can't go buy a Playboy at a magazine shop, if those still exist, if you don't show an ID. So wouldn't it just follow as common sense that you ought to show an ID to prove you're not a child to look at high-speed hardcore internet? Don't you think? However, when states pass laws requiring ID so that kids don't look at this stuff, you'll notice all the big companies shut down in those states. They would rather cease doing business in those states entirely than require people to show IDs so that little kids don't access their material. Kind of tells you a lot about those companies. The company's argument is that it's not about little kids seeing their stuff. They deny that happens, or they'd like to deny that happens. But they say, well, it's about privacy. If they require ID, no one's going to submit the ID because they're ashamed of the act. Yes, exactly. That's the point. This is shameful stuff. So whereas Donald Trump appeals to patriotism, making America great again, wanting to provide for your family, wanting to go to school, wanting to get a job, he's appealing to all these ideals that are really good for you, that people aspire to. The Democrats at this point, for Kamala Harris, who has very little to run on, they are now appealing to shame. They're now appealing to, hey, that gross thing that you like to do? That totally embarrassing, gross, shameful thing? Well, if you want to keep doing it, if you're addicted to drugs or this, if you want to get your next fix of that thing that's harmful to you, vote for us. We'll give it to you. Those Republicans, they won't do it. Really, in a campaign that has been so degrading for the Democrats, appealing to just the grossest stuff. This one is the cherry on top of that sundae. Now, those white dudes for Harris are embarrassing enough. The black women for Harris, not much better. Michelle Obama campaigning for Kamala on this argument.
So let us use our voices in these final days to make it plain to the men in our lives that we need to stand not with Trump, but with us. We need them to vote for the only candidate in this race who will protect our lives. We need them to vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala, she will fight to restore our reproductive freedoms and defend our health. Kamala will fight for our access to life-saving emergency care and maternal care in every state. Kamala will veto any abortion ban or bill that restricts access to contraception or IVF. Kamala will expand access to birth control and abortion pills. And she will do all of this not because she's a woman, but because she's a decent human being.
She's going to let us kill any kid we want because she's a decent human being. Notice the Michelle Obama speech is pretty much the same as the Harris ad. It's appealing to dark, shameful passions. How do you know that the desire to kill babies is dark and shameful? Because Michelle Obama has to use all sorts of euphemisms to describe it. She says, we need access to life-saving medical care. Abortion doesn't save a life. That's not what abortion does. Abortion ends lives. Abortion does not save lives. Well, we need access to maternal care. Maternal care, abortion's the opposite of maternal care. Abortion stops you from being a mother. Well, it doesn't actually stay. Once a mother, always a mother. But it does deny that you're a mother. It seeks to end the responsibilities of motherhood. It's exactly the opposite of maternal care. She gives up the game a little bit at the end, though. She talks about abortion pills. Democrats used to not really talk about abortion by that name. They try to avoid talking about abortion. Michelle Obama tried to use euphemisms in the first part, and then she just comes out and says it, abortion pills. Just like Democrats used to talk about abortion as being safe, legal, and rare. How it was unfortunate, but we have to have it legal for some reason. And now they say, no, shout your abortion up until the moment of birth, abortion after birth. She says you have to do, because Kamala's a decent person. And you heard a little bit of it at the top of that clip. In that speech, she says, men need to vote for Kamala if they care about women. And you women, you got to tell your husbands, you got to force your husbands and your brothers and your fathers and your sons to vote for Kamala. So here's Michelle Obama. She's saying we need to introduce discord into marriages and families. And we specifically have to do that. We need to introduce that discord so that we can elect a woman who will allow a mother to sever the most fundamental human bond, the bond between a mother and her child, which Mother Teresa in her Nobel Prize acceptance speech called the source of all the greatest evil in the world, abortion, because it severs that bond between the mother and the child. And if a mother can kill her child, then there's no reason that any of us can't kill each other or ourselves. We got to do that because of what a great person she is. It's these same kinds of appeals. Where's the idealism? Democrats used to at least strive for some kind of idealism. We want to make America great. We want a flourishing country. We want strong families. No, now they're saying, hey, vote for us and we'll let you kill your kids and abuse yourself. That's what you get. Those Republicans, they don't look kindly on murdering kids and hardcore accessible to children. So vote for us and we'll make sure your kids have widespread access to. We'll make sure that you can kill those kids and then if you do have the kids that they can access the. Vote for us if you're a good person. Doesn't take a genius to note that is not a good policy. However, if you want a good policy, you ought to check out Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com/Knowles. No matter what happens in this election or over the next 4 years, it is crucial to have peace of mind about your family's future. Did you know that 41% of people don't have the life insurance coverage they need? That is a startling statistic. As a parent myself, I understand how important it is to ensure that our loved ones are protected no matter what life throws our way. That is where Policy Genius comes in. They help you find the right life insurance policy at the best price. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. You can also compare quotes from top insurers side by side, completely free and with no hidden fees. Their support team is there to answer questions, handle paperwork, and advocate for you throughout the process. Policy Genius is not just another online service. They are the country's leading online insurance marketplace, trusted by thousands of satisfied customers. Just check out their 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Save time and money on providing a financial safety net for your family. head to policygenius.com/Knowles, Knowles, or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Knowles. Michelle Obama, awful on the campaign trail, still in many ways more tolerable than Kamala. We do have some breaking news. Even with 7 days to go, we have big news in the presidential race. A new Kamala accent has just dropped. You know, we previously had the urban accent. Then we had the Latina accent when Kamala was speaking to a crowd of Hispanics. She said, I love you too, mommy. Hello, ay, ay, ay. And now we have Pastor Kamala, Priestess Kamala, coming to you from the pulpit.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
I have a dream today. Not really persuasive at all. At least for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased. I don't like this woman. She does not strike me as a pastor. She doesn't seem to have the thumos, the ethos that is required for a really stirring pastor. It just seems fake. It just seems totally disingenuous and fake. Say what you will about Trump. He is not fake. This is, I think, one explanation as to why so many people who typically do not support Republicans, who typically are strong supporters of Democrats, seem to be coming over to Kamala, from Kamala to Trump in poll after poll after poll. Because Trump, no matter what crowd you put him in front of, he is exactly the same guy. He dresses the same. He makes the same facial expressions. He speaks in the same voice, and he says the same things. He is the same guy. With Kamala, you put her in front of Hispanics. She talks like a hello, like a Desi Arnaz, Ricky Ricardo, Kamala Harris, ay, ay, ay. Then you put her in front of Christians. Don't forget, 1 week ago, people came into a Kamala Harris rally and said, Jesus is Lord. And she laughed at them in their face and said, oh, you're at the wrong rally. You got to go to that Trump rally down the street. We don't take kindly to Christians in my rally. And she did her little witch cackle. Now, 1 week later, she comes out, joy cometh in the morning, I say, can I get a hallelujah? Can I get a say a hallelujah? I'm Kamala Harris for, oh wait, hold on, what crowd am I in front of? Hold on, let me just rejigger my, hey, Christians aren't welcome here. You go to the rally down the street. Wait, hold on, which crowd am I? Oh, I meant to say hello, you vote for me. She's confused in her message and in her voice and in her tone and in her everything. And it's easy to make fun of when she's throwing her voice and even when she's clearly pandering to different groups, but you see this on policy too. Kamala, she's the toughest on crime that there is. Oh, actually, Kamala wants to abolish the police. Kamala, she's going to be hard on the border and build that wall. Oh, actually, Kamala supports open borders, and she was the border czar and let in a record number of. Kamala Harris, is she pro-Israel? Is she pro-Palestine? Is she pro-war? Is she anti-war? Nobody has any idea. She wants to totally ban fracking. No, she actually loves fracking. That's why people are leaving her. People were saying this even at the Trump rally. At the Trump rally, people were saying, look, I don't agree with the guy on everything. Nobody agrees with the guy on everything. Dr. Phil came out and endorsed Trump at the rally. This was his first really public statement to say, no, I'm actually behind Trump. And he said, I want to be clear, I don't agree with this guy on everything, but I know where he stands. And that, in an era that is so fake, that just seems so contrived and dishonest and fake, I'm going to vote for the person with whom I agree 70 or 80% of the time, but who I know I can trust, rather than the person who tries to convince me that I agree with him or her 100% of the time, but I can't trust anything that, in this case, she says. Not working out very well, it would appear from the polls. So that's why you have Joe Biden coming out now and saying, all right, we tried to kick him off the ballot, it didn't work. We tried to imprison him, it didn't work. We swapped the candidates, that didn't work. We tried this, we tried that. Okay, you know what? We just got to go back to locking him up.
He is talking about doing away with the entire Department of Education. He's talking, he means it. This is not a joke. This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
You could see the exact moment when even Joe realized, oh, yikes, I shouldn't have said that. We got to lock him up. Politically. Yeah, that's the ticket. And so Karine Jean-Pierre has had to try to cover for this, the White House press secretary. She said, no, he said, he means that we have to lock him out politically. No, he didn't say lock him out. He didn't say bar him from the political process, which would be bad enough. He says, lock him up. This is a big deal because though the Democrats have been trying to lock him up for many, many months now, they have not conceded that rhetoric. They have continued to say Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and one of the chief pieces of evidence for his threat to democracy is that he wants to lock up his political opponents. They chanted "lock her up" at the 2016 campaign. Trump said he would lock up Hillary Clinton, even though he never did that, never had any intention of doing that. But he is a threat because he wants to lock up his opponents. Now, Trump has been saying they want to lock me up. The Democrats have denied it. No, we're just letting Lady Justice go where she may. Now Biden admits, yeah, we're trying to lock him up, which means that immediately, Trump's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the 2020 election case, which the Jack Smith case where they're trying to lock him up for his threat to democracy. And Trump's lawyers are citing Joe Biden's remark. They're saying, look, this guy's admitting. We've said from the beginning this is a witch hunt where the Department of Justice has been weaponized by the Biden administration to try to lock up the man who was Joe Biden's chief political rival, now is Kamala Harris's political rival, the former president, the leading presidential candidate. And the Biden White House has been denying that. The DOJ has been denying that. Well, hey, you don't have to believe us. You don't have to believe Donald Trump. You can hear it from the horse's mouth or some part of the horse. Joe Biden, who's saying, yeah, we are trying to lock him up. Now, speaking of increasingly totalitarian government, you think it's bad here in America? Just wait till you hear what's going on in the United Kingdom. First, though, I want to tell you about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Stop overpaying for data you will never use. With Pure Talk, you can choose how much data you actually want and save. For just $35 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 15 gigs of data, plus mobile hotspot on America's most dependable 5G network. Do you know what you can do with that much data? You can browse the internet for 500 hours, stream 3,000 songs, or watch 30 hours of video. And that's if you're not on Wi-Fi, which most of us are most of the time. When you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you will get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. That is access to the library of DW Plus movies, series, and documentaries, including Lady Ballers, What is a Woman, Mr. Burcham, and now exclusive access to Matt Walsh's latest bombshell, Am I Racist? Plus uncensored ad-free daily shows, 1 year free of our kids' platform, Bent Key, and a free Leftist Tears tumbler. The only way you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada WLES, or call and mention my name. Stop overpaying for your cell phone plan. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada WLES today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. In the UK, over in the motherland, it is now illegal to pray in your head. It's an article. Encourage you to read it all in the Free Press, Barry Weiss's paper. This is by my friend, Maddie Kearns. She was arrested for praying in her head. Citizens in the UK have been arrested, prosecuted, and convicted for silently praying outside abortion clinics. Even organizing pro-life meetings in your own home may be a criminal offense. So you've heard before, I've covered the story of the woman who was praying silently outside an abortion clinic across the street, and cops come up to her and they say, "Oh, well there, lady, yeah, what you doing in your own head there? Yeah, you crying, yeah?" And she says, excuse me? Yeah, well, you can't be praying even in your own head. So sorry there, mate, but I got to arrest you. Yeah, you understand, Governor. Yeah. And the woman goes along, and it's an obvious miscarriage of justice. Somehow, the situation has gotten even more absurd. Now, because of new laws, if you live within, call it whatever it is, 200 meters, 200, even though they should use standard measurements in the UK because it's the English measurements. Now they use the metric system, so it gets very confusing. But if you live within a certain radius of a baby killing site, an abortion mill, you are not permitted to wear pro-life slogans on your clothing. You can't say, protect life, choose life. You can't wear that in your home. You can't hold meetings with like-minded people who think it's wrong to kill babies. You can't pray in your own head. Here's just a little bit from the article. On October 4th, Emma, who asked not to be named, I can't believe she just named her like that. No, it's obviously this is a pseudonym, got a letter from the Scottish government addressed, Dear Resident. Its purpose was to alert her that her home, due to its proximity to the hospital, is now in an abortion censorship zone. This is due to the UK's brand new Safe Access law, which came into effect September 24th, so this is very recent, made it a criminal offense to do anything within 200 meters of an abortion facility that could influence someone's decision to access, provide, or facilitate an abortion. Even, quote, activities in a private place, such as a house, within the area, could be an offense if they can be seen or heard within the zone and are done intentionally or recklessly. Recklessly. Wearing a shirt that says, choose life. Therefore, choose life. A quote from the Bible. If you wear that on a shirt, that is reckless, according to the Scottish government. If you do that in your own home, and your home has the misfortune of being within 200 meters, pretty decent distance, of a baby killing site, you could be arrested because of how reckless that was of you. If you pray, if you're sitting on your balcony, if you're just sitting in your living room with the window open, and you pray, please, dear God, help the babies who are being killed, help the mothers not to kill them. Please protect life, Lord. And you pray that, and maybe someone can hear you. You could be arrested in your own home. And then, if you walk outside your home and you just have the look of someone who's praying in her own head, you could be arrested, prosecuted. And what's the penalty here? The law carries a maximum fine of £10,000. Right now, that's over $13,000, but depending on the exchange rate, could be much more. It's not just Scotland. On October 31st, a similar law will go into effect in both England and Wales. This was passed by Parliament last year. And in those countries, unlike in Scotland, the fine will be unlimited. So you could lose everything. You could lose your livelihood. You could lose all of your property for praying silently that babies not be killed. Do not think this can't happen here. Some Americans are going to say, well, we have the First Amendment. Oh, yeah? Do we? As I've noted, actually even somewhat approvingly, the First Amendment is not absolute. There are all sorts of categories of speech that are not protected, such as fraud, such as direct threats, such as obscenity. And then even beyond that, there are all sorts of mechanisms from the government, often through private organizations, that censor people and that punish people who speak out, such as when the federal government has pressured Facebook and YouTube and Google to silence the speech of conservatives. You saw this last election cycle with the Hunter Biden laptop story. People were not even permitted to privately message the Hunter Biden story. Privately. There's a little bit of a parallel here to praying silently in your own head. You couldn't even privately message those stories because the government came out and said, oh, this is Russian misinformation, which turned out to be a complete lie. But because of that, the government pressured the big tech companies. The big tech companies control the public square. Think of how the federal government, how the FBI sent agents in to spy on Catholic parishes. Catholic parishes, which the FBI called radical, extremist, traditionalist parishes, compared them basically to domestic terrorists. And then the FBI lied about it. They said, oh, it was just one memo in one field office. Turned out, no, it's actually pretty widespread. Multiple memos, multiple field offices. Don't think this can't happen here. This reminds us of a difference. The left loves to accuse the right of being authoritarian. We sometimes call the left authoritarian, but more you hear it, the left talking about Donald Trump. They say that Donald Trump, he's an authoritarian because why? Because he thinks that people from terrorist countries should not be permitted into the country unvetted, because he believes that it's good to revere the American flag. He spoke at the rally about restoring the traditional American laws that would make it a criminal offense, subject to fines or even jail time, to burn the American flag, which is actually a conservative view, and it's not libertarian, but it's a conservative view. It's a return to the American tradition. He just floated that idea, or I don't know, whatever. All sorts of rules and standards and norms that the left calls authoritarian. I think this is a really silly term. I think President Trump is about as libertarian as it gets compared to the American norm, and certainly compared to the left. But let's grant it. Let's say that Trump believes in some authority and some ability to discern between good and bad and right and wrong. Okay, that's fair. The left, I don't think Trump is authoritarian, but if you want to try to throw that label at him, I think it is eminently clear that the left is totalitarian. What's the difference? Authoritarian says, hey, there are going to be certain standards and you better not cross those standards. You better not put elementary schools, because then we're going to have a problem. You get a lot of latitude here, but if you start putting in elementary schools, then we're going to have a problem. We're going to punish you for that. That's authoritarian, I guess, according to the left. Totalitarian, though, does not merely pertain to certain policies, certain relations between the government and the citizenry. Totalitarian permeates the entire society. Authoritarian is when the government punishes you when you cross a line. Totalitarian is when the government encourages kids to rat out their families to the authorities so that they can go arrest the parents. That's totalitarian. Authoritarian says you can't go out there and, parade with a Nazi flag in the streets. If you parade with a Nazi flag, we're going to arrest you. I guess you could tenuously call that totalitarian. Authoritarian, rather. Totalitarian is when the government says you can't pray in your own head. If we catch you praying in your own head, you're going to be arrested. The left wants to make a weak argument that the right is authoritarian. Okay, the left is revealing itself day in, day out to be totalitarian, which is much worse. All governments, all states, all polities need to have some kind of authority. But totalitarian, that's what we're talking about. People trying to control your mind and punish you severely if you commit a thought crime against them. It's happening in the UK, could very easily happen here. Now, speaking of prayer, great news, especially for a swing state like Michigan. President Trump has just been endorsed by major Muslim leaders in Michigan.
Good afternoon, Michiganders. As the president said, we just had a positive meeting with President Trump. We as Muslims stand with President Trump because he promises peace. He promises peace, not war. We are supporting Donald Trump because he promised to end war in the Middle East and Ukraine. The bloodshed has to stop all over the world, and I think this man can make that happen. I personally believe that God saved his life twice for a reason.
For a reason. What's the reason? So that Americans can elect him, and specifically Muslims in the swing state of Michigan who could be the deciding factor in the election, so they vote for Trump. Wow, man, this guy's something else, isn't he? I was just at MSG. You had, I don't know, what was that arena? A quarter Jews? There were so many Jews there. There were yarmulkes, there were Israel flags. Rudy Giuliani made a quarter of his speech about how much he loves Israel and the Jews. You get all this Jewish support, and you get all of this Muslim support, and all of this Arab support. and support from other Muslims in Michigan. How? How does Trump? Because Trump understands that politics is the art of inclusion. It's the art of the possible. So it's not just an accident. He's not duping people into supporting him. Jews, pro-Israel Jews, I should clarify, because a lot of Jews don't like the state of Israel, but pro-Israel Jews like Trump because Trump does not hate Israel and does not hate them. That's why they like Trump. The left has become quite anti-Jewish. Trump likes the Jews, so they like Trump. He's willing to support the state of Israel, too. Muslims like Trump because Trump hates war. He seriously hates war. The war hawks, people like the Cheneys, they are supporting Kamala Harris. Trump is kind of the peace candidate here. Tulsi Gabbard, whose big issue is opposing war, Tulsi spoke at the Trump rally in MSG. Trump actually is offering something to both of those groups. It's not a trick. It's not deceit. It's not being two-faced. It's not lying like Kamala Harris is doing to people and pandering to different groups when she sees them. He's got the same message to everyone. That message happens to be appealing to groups who are traditionally at odds or who are frequently at odds. That is really good politics. That is really impressive. That is how you build new coalitions. That's how you crack the political status quo. Maybe that's how you win in 7 days. Mr. Matt Walsh's movie, Am I Racist?, is now streaming exclusively on DailyWire Plus. If you have not watched Am I Racist on DailyWire Plus, because you've already seen it in theaters, well, think again. DW Plus members are getting never-before-seen footage, a rare deleted scene from Matt, and an exclusive behind-the-scenes breakdown where Matt reveals exactly how he pulled off the ultimate troll against the libs. If you're not a member yet, head on over to amiracist.com. Use code DEI for 35% off your DailyWire Plus membership. Stream Am I Racist right now only on DailyWire Plus. My favorite comment yesterday is from the Drummers Workshop, Norm's Music. Wow, yet again. He's just got great comments. Joe Rogan. Kamala, are you familiar with the UFC? Kamala Harris. I grew up in a middleweight family. That's what she's going to say. Except, no, she's not going to say it because she's never going to go on Joe Rogan. Because while Trump can hang for 3 hours plus and weave, and go off the cuff and be likable and be persuasive, Kamala can't do that. Kamala can't even do it scripted. Turning to the future generations, Kamala says this is a future-oriented campaign for a new generation of leadership, even though she's got the exact same policies as Joe Biden, and she's not appealing to young people as other Democrats do. Young people are weighing in on a rather different matter. I guess a matter that relates to that first ad we played for Kamala. The UCLA Center for Scholars and Storytellers has a study out, Teens and Screens, shows that young people want fewer sex scenes in movies and TV, which will surprise some boomers and maybe Gen X who assume that young people always just want more sex and more nudity is more cool, more cooler and more better, and they want it. Turns out, no, young people want fewer sex scenes. 63.5% of adolescents want less sex as a plot device. So 62.4% said sexual content is not needed as a plot device. Big jumps from last year when 51.5% of those surveys said they wanted more content about people in platonic relationships, and 47.5% said they didn't seek out shows or movies where sex was a major plot point. Some conservatives are going to want to celebrate this. They say, all right, great, the kids are becoming more chaste and more based, and that's good. And there's something to that. Obviously, young people are reacting against the absolute saturation of our culture in obscenity. They are reacting against that. Just as in the 1950s, we prosecuted and we enforced wholesome standards. Then in the 60s and 70s, it's totally swung in the other direction. Now it's starting to swing back. Absolutely true. It's the same reason that surrealist and abstract painting took off after photography. It's when you have photography that can give you a perfect reproduction of a scene, then it diminishes the spectacle, the wonder that comes from really realistic oil painting. And then all of a sudden, artists had to try to do something different. I think that's a little bit what's going on here. So in some ways it's good, and it's anti-obscenity. In some ways, though, I worry about this because, yes, you want less gross sex stuff in movies. You want less blunt sex stuff. You want less obscenity, of course. But this survey goes further. In this survey, people say they don't want romantic relationships to even really be a plot device. Now, again, why is that? It's because in our culture, the pendulum has swung so far that any relationship between two people is viewed as sexual, or at least potentially sexual. If two guys are close friends, now they're like gay. They call it a bromance. Even though Aristotle would say that friendship is actually the highest form of love, even more than romantic love. Now our modern culture says, no, everything has to be romantic love. Everything has to be sexual. We're kind of following the modern reading of Freud, that says that everything is just brimming with sexuality, and we kind of cover it all up. We cover up the eros of everything. So the young people are I think, rebelling against that and saying, "Oh, we don't have any friends. We're lonely. We're everywhere. I guess we could plausibly have sex and bump uglies with people in a kind of material way, in a way that doesn't really involve much romance or love, but is, just kind of sensual. But we don't have friends anymore. Nobody has friends. So I could see that rebellion. However, the fear is that some of this might be coming from feminism. Some of this might be coming from modern sexual theories, which deny the complementarity of the sexes, which try to pretend that men and women can just, as a general rule, be friends without there being any kind of romance. With the denial that birds do it, bees do it, even sentimental trees do it. Let's fall in love. What we need to make sure when we consider the popular media, that we don't just keep allowing that pendulum to swing from one extreme where, Lucy can't even say that she's pregnant on TV, to the other extreme where everything is just sex all the time. We want there to be moderation. Moderation is a virtue, actually. Not like the way the squishy Republican politicians talk about it, but in terms of actual moderation. We need to recognize that friendship is really important and crucial to a good life. And romance is good too. And the complementarity of the sexes is good too. We seem to have this totally schizophrenic culture. And you can see this even in our politics. We go from when we talk about the polarization of politics, that is a real problem. If the culture just keeps swinging one extreme to the other, you're not going to have any stability. You're not going to have any consensus. You're not going to really even have a shared conception of the common good. Got to restore a little normality here. And it's important, getting back to what we were talking to at the top of the show, it's especially important that we restore normality in our sexual politics. The libs who have waged the sexual revolution have done so with some political wisdom because they recognize that sex is real important to who we are. Sex is a big motivator. And if you can pervert people's sexual appetites, if you can arouse their passions, if you can appeal to the prurient interest, that you can control people. This is in large part why obscenity laws used to outlaw things that appealed to the prurient interest. Most people don't even know what that word means anymore. They outlawed things that just seek to arouse you at a really base level because that takes people out of their reason and it makes people much easier to control, much easier to enslave, frankly. Now, speaking of enslaving people and all sorts of political control, the libs have tried in the final couple weeks to just go all in on this Trump is a fascist line. There was a memo circulating among some Democrats yesterday that showed that line is not really working all that well and encouraged Democrats to cut it out because people don't believe it. But even Eric Adams, the Democrat mayor of New York, has just come out and said that these comparisons to Hitler, that this constant invective and accusation that Trump is a fascist, we got to cut it out, not just because it's politically ineffective for Democrats, but because it's just not true.
I have been had those terms hurled at me by some political leaders in the city, using terms like Hitler and fascist. My answer is no. I know what Hitler has done, and I know what a fascist regime looks like. I think, as I've called over and over again, that the level of conversation, I think we could all dial down the temperature. And I've heard people say that the former president should not be able to have a rally in Madison Square Garden. I strongly disagree. This is America. This is New York. And I think it's important that we allow individuals to exercise their right to get their message clear to New Yorkers.
Of course. Of course. Really simple. Really simple stuff. He's saying this because the line isn't working for Democrats, because it isn't true, because it makes the Democrats look really bad. Meanwhile, you got Barack Obama coming out. He's scratching his head and he's saying, how did we get so toxic?
I don't understand how we got so toxic and just so divided and so bitter. And I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it. And we all have friends like that. We have family members who are just like, it's all a circus out there. I get that.
How did we get so toxic? Says the man who called religious Americans bitter clingers, bitterly clinging to their guns and religion. People who support their constitutional rights and the Bible, they're bitterly clinging to their guns and religion. The man who promised to fundamentally transform America because he doesn't like America, because he hates America. You don't fundamentally transform something that you love. You want to fundamentally transform things that you hate. The man who said that racism is deeply rooted in America. The man who accused a cop of acting stupidly in the Henry Louis Gates incident up in Cambridge. He accused the cop of acting stupidly because the cop responded to a burglary, undermined our law enforcement. The man whose wife said she was first proud of America when America elected her husband president. Before that, she wasn't proud. How did we get so toxic? These people made politics toxic. They're the ones who did it. It's pretty much all them. Okay? I'm not even saying it's all Democrats. It's those kind of extreme leftist Democrats. Wasn't totally like this. Certainly not in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Obama marked a shift. The real progressive rise marked a shift. These people made our politics toxic and unpleasant for everyone, including the left. If you don't want our politics to be so toxic anymore, vote for Trump on Election Day. If you want more of the same that's degraded our country so much over the last couple decades, well, then I guess you want to vote for Kamala. Today is Tuesday. The rest of the show continues. Now, you do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLAS, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.